Our group is going to be presenting nurse burnout and turnover. What's the issue? 1 in 3 nurses are reporting high burnout. Hospital turnover rate currently stands at 17.9%. There's a rising vacancy rate happening and not enough nurses are entering into the workplace.
Why are nurses leaving the workforce? So there's a lot of factors, but as you can see on the slide, things such as insufficient pay and benefits, lack of advancement and career growth, as well as educational opportunities, and increased job stress leading to that burnout, poor work-life balance and work environment, and also that aging workforce leading more nurses to go into retirement and not enough coming in.
I'm Haley, and I'm going to be talking about nursing and work environment. As with any workplace, we know that great leadership from higher management positively affects the everyday efficiency and consistency. When employees feel valued as individuals by managers first, the work environment is much more secure. These are displayed in individual nurse impacts to the floor, effectiveness and overall efficiency for the whole department. Kiersey says that there is a direct link between the health of the workplace and the well-being of the personnel, and healthy workplaces are correlated with healthier patients. Beyond the usual burnout, exhaustion, being overworked, and minimal autonomy, we see that most cases of resignation are due to the work environment and conditions. Mangelich concludes that structural empowerment induced by strong department leadership encourages more professional practices from nurses. And oftentimes we see that self-efficacy and independence needs to be found from leadership themselves to be transmittable to their teams. Ownership was given to staff through the authority and autonomy to act at the bedside as providers of care. Psychological ownership tells us that when individuals have a sense of ownership in any situation, they are more motivated and committed to their responsibility. As a result, this often leads to more job satisfaction and less turnover. Our common solution to non-performance is often to increase supervisor roles and provide RN training for exact circumstances. This could lead to an inevitable dead end of an individual's capacity to respond on their own, especially in their high stress moments. Though the correct intentions are in place, there is no certainty to maintaining this over the long run. A study in Korea tells us that there would be more success in self-efficacy, job embeddedness, and self-leadership. Self-efficacy refers to the individual's belief in their ability to analyze and execute courses of action in their own circumstances. We can assume that with this, nurses are able to care for patients with more independence, minimizing disruptions and increasing success. Organizational fit, connectivity, and sense of belonging indicates job embeddedness, which allows for individuals in a workplace to take their place and increase internal satisfaction. Self-leadership consists of 6 parts: self-explanation, rehearsal, self-goal setting, self-reward, self-criticism, and constructive thought. With these as foundational checkpoints for oneself, individuals, regardless of workplace or situation, are able to guide themselves first before needing others to fix wrongdoings. Not only would this benefit overall leadership from managers and head nurses, we can expect whole departments to benefit from this. In this study, it is proven that there is a direct correlation between self-efficacy and job embeddedness, which leads to self-leadership. This has an overwhelming positive effect on decreasing workplace dissatisfaction and lessening opportunities for nursing turnover.
Hi, I'm Evelyn and I'm doing the nurse turnover costs. So as Haley mentioned, the work environment has a lot to do with nurse turnover, and unfortunately, with that comes costs. The average turnover cost for a bedside nurse can range anywhere between $37,700 to $58,400. That means that on average, it could cost an organization up to $1 million a year. These turnover costs are generally broken down into direct and indirect costs. Direct costs are those costs that can be clearly attributed to a particular activity. This could be either advertising, temporary replacement, hiring, and recruitment. Advertising could be anything such as using LinkedIn, Craigslist, or even newspapers to post job openings. The next cost is a cost for a temporary replacement. This can cost an average of of about $82,000, and hiring a new nurse all depends on how much the new prospect wants to earn. Indirect costs are those costs that cannot be readily assigned to a specific activity and/or that may be hidden. This includes orientation, productivity losses, and loss of organizational knowledge, which brings me to my next slide. One of the biggest losses of nurse turnover is the loss of organizational knowledge, or the loss of the nursing human capital theory. The nursing human capital theory is the knowledge, skills, and experience of a nurse. This knowledge can be reflected in academic preparation, specialty certification status, hours of continuing education attended, professional experience, and clinical specialty experience. Therefore, if an experienced nurse leaves the organization, it could potentially have effects on the quality because the organization is losing knowledge, or as I like to say, the organization is losing one brain from their team. As I mentioned, units with higher levels of nursing human capital have better quality of care. Thus, when a nurse leaves, the quality of care decreases because when a nurse leaves, he or she is taking all that knowledge they have accumulated over the years with them. Lastly, I will discuss an ignored aspect of nurse turnover. We will look at the benefits of nurse turnover. Although the costs of turnover are presumed to be more costly, there can also be some positives of having a nurse depart from the organization. These benefits can include reductions in salaries and benefits for newly hired nurses versus departing nurses, savings from bonuses not paid to outgoing nurses. Additionally, replacement nurses can bring in new ideas as well as creativity and innovation, as knowledge of competitors. Elimination of poor performers would also be a benefit if someone departs from the organization. So although there are some downsides of turnover, there can also be some positives. And now Maribel will discuss the differences in turnover rates amongst other healthcare organizations.
Okay, so my name is Maribel, and I'll be talking about the different rates amongst organizations. And to start off, the average RN turnover rate is 16.8%. And these rates vary also depending on the degrees. So for a certified nursing assistant, these turnover rates can be up to 65% in a nursing home. And as you can see here in this chart, the behavioral health is number one with a 23.1% turnover rate, followed by telemetry. Telemetry is patients that have critical conditions and require constant monitoring. And then last is the emergency department. So those would be the top three. We are looking at why these rates vary. So with the risk of assault, that would be within the behavioral health, these nurses are afraid. They are afraid of patients, of aggressive patients. And so they don't want to be there and they end up just wanting to leave the jobs. And also understaffing, that's a problem throughout all organizations. For behavioral health, a lot of these patients require that one-on-one so they can make assessments. And so they don't have the ability to do that with patients. In nursing homes, the understaffing creates problems, health issues with patients. A lot of times ulcers come up on these patients, and the cost to cover this can be between $2,000 and $20,000. And emotional exhaustion is also just part of emergency department nurses. They're often dealing with patients that are coming in that are critical, families, they're dealing with different ages, different demographics. And so they have to constantly be trying to just work with people. So it creates this emotional exhaustion for them too.
Hi, I'm Erica Jimenez. So I'm going to be discussing what's proven to work for healthcare systems to address many of the concerns and the dissatisfiers that we've discussed in the previous slide that have caused nurses to leave the workforce. Some of the following items listed have proven to greatly improve overall retention and reduce nurse turnover and burnout. So some items such as phased retirement programs, which have allowed older nurses to stay working longer and also bridge that knowledge gap between new and experienced nurses. Goes the same for mentorship programs, which also bridges that knowledge gap. Things such as flexible work arrangements and elderly care benefits, and definitely employee surveys and scorecards biweekly, monthly, or quarterly, and can be used to gauge perceptions from nurses of the work environment and find areas to improve. Well, I'm going to be highlighting some healthcare systems who not only adopted many of the strategies from the previous slide, but have also implemented their own programs within their organizations that have proven to be successful in reducing nurse turnover. As you can see, there's about 5 organizations. I'll be highlighting about 3. So Bon Secours is a non-for-profit organization, and they have seen lower turnover due to their ability to implement beneficial programs such as their Guiding Light mentorship program, as well as flexible benefits for their employees. They've seen an average turnover of 11 to 12% compared to the national average, which we highlighted at 17.9. The Carroll Health Systems, they offer in-house educational programs, both BS and SM, and they have tremendously improved their nursing retention. On top of that, with included benefits, they've seen retention from about 81.7% to about 89.2% with their nursing staff, as well as Reston Hospital Center in Reston, Virginia. They have implemented a 10-element onboarding program, and it was able to restore the unstable turnover increases. They saw dramatic decreases in their turnover from 18.2% in 2012 to 11.9% in 2013, which represents about a 6% decrease. Also their lowest rating since 2009. So not only that, but a lot of these organizations have utilized those strategies from the previous slide, such as programs and benefits, educational and professional development, has tremendously increased their turnover. Decreased their turnover. Things healthcare systems and organizations should consider. Preventing nurse turnover and burnout is a multi-layer approach. Simply increasing your wages and providing more flexible schedules and benefits won't solve the problem. There must be various initiatives involved with supporting your staff. That is, if you do want to keep them and reduce that turnover. Second, that is a long-term investment. You won't find success in reducing your turnover rates if you don't invest in the programs and strategies needed to combat it, whether it's the improved benefits, in-house educational programs, or even mentorships. You will need to spend money in order to save yourself from future losses. And third, you need to work closely with your human resource and higher administration to successfully implement these programs and initiatives that combat turnover. There needs to be full collaboration and support from all areas, and this will help create a change in cultures and truly improve policies, practices, and turnover rates. So that concludes our presentation, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to open your mics after we end it.